Hey everyone, welcome back to the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. This is Brandon Johnson. I am so excited to be back. This is season three, so we've made it to um, 3 seasons doing this work. I'm so appreciative of everyone sharing the videos, being a part of what we've put together here, and so excited about season three. I have a bunch of stuff lined up, and again this year we'll be doing our Black Youth Suicide Prevention Week in September. Throughout the year you'll hear more and more things about that, but super excited to be back. And I keep saying I'm gonna have my office done at some point, so this background won't just look like blue space. But at some point I'm gonna get this done, and it's gonna be real nice in the background. But um, again, if you're new to the Black on the Wellness Lounge, this is a safe space for us to talk around mental health, the things that impact us, the things that really concern us, and to have that conversation in a safe and open way, and to provide resources for folks to get connected. And so, with that being said, tonight I'm super excited because I have not just one person, not just myself, um, but three other wonderful people who are can't call them colleagues, but I consider them friend colleagues in this space. Really, really admire the work that they're doing. And tonight, we're really going to get into a conversation around Black women's mental health. So, what does that mean? What does mental health mean for our Black women? How can we all better support Black women in our space? And what are some of the things that our Black women are dealing with? I mean, I have a list of things that I just see just in my interactions on the day-to-day basis, but really wanted to hear from this amazing panel that I have um, tonight. And so how we want to start is just I'll just have each of you, if you can introduce yourself, but also if you want to talk about one thing that you're working on that you're super proud of. And so to start this off, I'll go to Dr. Kizzy Pittrell.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon, again for allowing me to come into the space. And I'm excited to sit here with two other colleagues. I'll call you guys colleagues as well, since we're all in this space together to talk about Black women and women's mental health. So my name is Dr. Kizzy Pittrell. I'm an LCPC. I have group practice in Baltimore County. I work, funny thing is, I work with a lot of women. I see women ages 18 and up in my practice, and a lot of women's issues they come in with. So every and anything from life transitions to grief, loss, relationship trauma. And so that's, pretty much my practice. I also teach part time at the community college at Anne Arundel and Baltimore City Community College. And one thing I'm excited and working on currently is trying to establish my outpatient mental health clinic because it is a needed entity, especially in this area of Baltimore County. And I just want to continue to build on working with women with life and transitional issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and excited about that too, because we definitely need that here in our community. And so now when I go to Brianna Baker, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon, for having me and for inviting me on the show. I feel super honored. I know we know each other through Twitter, so happy to see you, in action on the space. My name is Brianna A. Baker, or just Bree, and I'm a doctoral student at Columbia University studying counseling psychology. So I'm in my third year now, and a lot of my work has centered around women in different capacities. So clinically, I work with women. I work at Barnard College as a psychology extern or student therapist, which is a historical women's college. So I work with women every single day, usually ages 18 to 22, and working with them short-term therapy on a variety of different presentations and issues. My dissertation is also focused on women and more specifically Black women. So looking at messages of hope and healing between Black mothers and daughters. So really excited to be here. That's probably the thing I'm most excited that I'm working on. I'm also wrapping up another project where I was looking at hope from the lens of Black women activists in the Southern United States. So hopefully that'll be published soon. And yeah, that's probably the big thing that I'm working on right now.
That's awesome. Definitely let us know when it's published, and much success to you on your doctoral journey. I have any respect, or so much respect for anybody going on that journey, because that's a heavy one, and one that I couldn't even fathom. But definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. And last but not least, Maria Bush, if you could introduce yourself. Oh, you're still on mute.
Got it. Thank you so much, Brandon, for having me. We go a few years back, and I'm just so grateful and excited to see you continue this journey of mental health. We so need you doing what you're doing. I'm Maria Bush. I'm a licensed professional counselor, mental health service provider in the state of Tennessee. I'm also licensed in the state of Arizona, Florida, and Missouri. I have a private practice where I'm CEO and also licensed therapist called Kindness Connects Us Therapy Services, where we service individuals who are dealing with mood and psychotic disorders, as well as trauma or any various types of abuse. 90% of clients are women. And so I work with women who have been through sexual assault, have been through domestic violence, relationship trauma, who have experienced childhood trauma, who are in life transition, women who have come out of divorce, who are trying to get back their self-worth and self-esteem. I work with young women as well as young men as well too, as well as men. So I'm just so grateful to be here. One thing I am excited about, I am also an approved licensure supervisor for clinicians who are wanting to become licensed in the state of Tennessee and also Missouri. And so I'm really looking forward to pouring into and teaching the next generation of clinicians, as well as empowering them. So, but thank you so much for for allowing me to be here.
No, awesome. That's amazing, and that's something that we push a lot here at the Black Mental Wellness Lounge, is shoring up that workforce, right? Like getting, we need more of you on the work that you're doing out in our community, because there just aren't enough of us as it currently stands, especially to meet this need and this new focus around mental health and wellness. And so, we really wanted to have the conversation tonight around Black women's mental health. And in just being on social media, just, going about the day to day, reading news articles, hearing stories, seeing where, people choose to direct their jokes, or, how people view the issues, and just what, the Black women's existence, to be quite honest. There is so much negativity and things that you see just out in social media, and hearing from your friends, your loved ones, who are Black women, the things that they experience on a day-to-day basis in so many different sectors, right? Whether it be healthcare, workforce, wherever, even in the home. It seems to be so much and so many different weights that our Black women are carrying, particularly right now in this I'll call it climate. I have some other words for it, but this climate that we're seeing. And so, from you, or from your perspectives, personal or professional, what are some of the issues and challenges and things that you're seeing impacting Black women's mental health, and things that have been some challenges that you, again, personal as much as you're comfortable, or professional, and anybody can just jump in.
I'll start. Um, I think that I know that we all have experienced a lot since the pandemic, and I actually call this time the post-pandemic, right? And so I'm seeing more people come out of their spaces, maybe their spaces of security, because they weren't maybe ready yet, or maybe they were trying to manage their problems on their own. So I've been seeing a lot of women specifically really come out of their spaces that they were in during that pandemic into this post pandemic. So some of the things that they experienced prior to the pandemic, we're starting to see an influx of that now. Like you see kind of like how it has manifested to um, their health, of course, their emotional and social health as well, their relationships. So again, I don't know if it's a combination of the pandemic and what people were already, what women were already struggling with prior to, and now we're just seeing an influx of all of that. Or has the pandemic, and I know that the pandemic has definitely made a lot of the matters that people have been struggling with come to the forefront. So that is what I have been seeing a lot in my practice. Um, a lot of women first time in therapy, but they struggled silently and alone for many years prior to the pandemic, and especially during the pandemic. But now I'm seeing an influx of those people, coming in, and they're coming in because it's affecting other areas of their lives.
Absolutely.
I think I piggyback off of you, Dr. Kizzy, that I'm seeing women who are suffering in silence. I think you're right. I'm seeing a lot of more women come to the forefront seeking help, utilizing their EAP, utilizing the resources that they have through their employer, but also they're suffering in silence within their relationship, within their family. They're putting everybody else before themselves. They're saying, I'm pushing through, Maria, I'm pushing through until it gets to the point I can't do this. And so that's what I'm seeing, which goes back into something I'm really passionate about, is that self-worth, being able to see that you are worthy of rest, that you're worthy of getting asserting yourself, setting healthy boundaries. And so that's what, like I said, seeing a lot more women come and get the help, but not really asserting themselves within their environment. And that could be due to some of the things and the systems in place not allowing them to actually let their hair down and not look as if they're weak for getting help.
Yeah, I can definitely add on to that. I mean, looking weak is something that I think a lot of Black women, myself included, don't want to do. When I think about your initial question of what are some of the struggles that Black women are going through, I just think about what it means for us Black women in America to occupy this position of being basically at the bottom of the socio-demographic hierarchy when we think about other groups in America. And when you're in that space, it is a constant push and pull of being too much and not being enough. And it's, being too loud, but being too soft and quiet. It's so much of this back and forth that you have to negotiate, which takes a real toll on your mental health, on your well-being, and a real toll on just the self. Like, who am I? Who do I have the right to be? And so I think what I see, especially in kind of the coming of age group that I work with, is, what does it mean to be a Black woman? What does it mean to be a Black woman as I navigate white spaces? What does it mean to be a Black woman if I need to cry, or if I do have these emotions, what do I do with them? So it's a lot of kind of negotiating and renegotiating identity and what that means in these different spaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you all mentioned some different things, and another piece of it um that I really wanted to talk about that you all kind of alluded to is, the expectations, the unfair expectations on Black women, right? Because what you all were describing is, um, really, like, there are expectations, but they're so fine, right? They're like, you have to present yourself a certain way physically. There are spaces in which you can't speak up. Like, you're not allowed to speak up, or if you speak up, you have to speak up within this certain tone. You can't be perceived outside of that. Like, how do you envision, like, how does systems, come into play and kind of put these expectations on our Black women? Anybody want to take that one?
I'm just processing and thinking about just the systems because there are so many to navigate, and even as a therapist, um, our role sometimes fall into that of case manager as well, um, because we're helping people navigate through systems. I remember even early on as a young therapist working in community-based programs,
Mhm.
even as a therapist working individually and conducting the treatment plans and all that, you're still helping people try to navigate through these challenging systems, be it the child welfare system, the health system, just all these different places where they have to navigate through. So it's a challenging question because these systems they put barriers in place. I mean, even as a professional, just an individual woman, let's just remove my clinical hat.
Mhm.
Even we have to navigate through these systems, and you know, all of us on this call, we are educated and articulate, and probably have supportive people in our lives. But imagine that those women that do not, and how challenging that is to have to navigate through these tough systems, because there already are barriers in place. So then you have to jump through so many different layers to seek help or get support. And one that I can think of that just kind of came to my mind is like the medical system. I'm sure none of us have been we've all kind of been abreast about the things that happen in the medical system, where women will go into their primary care doctor's office with a physical complaint and they're not taken seriously. And you know maybe the good thing for some of us, who have the support and have the communication skills, we can ask those questions and we can kind of challenge the doctor a little bit to dig a little deeper or do some more testing. But what about the women who are unfortunately not able to have that? They'll just kind of take the doctor's word at face value, and then go home a few months later, the cancer has progressed from stage 1 to stage 4. So that, just thinking of systems, that's one that I think of often, is having those conversations. How do we help these women in different socioeconomic statuses navigate through some of these systems? Because there are barriers there. There are barriers for us, so they're no different than the barriers that are there for our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear so much about um the healthcare system and women's health not being taken seriously in those systems. I just There was a story recently about a black woman who died during childbirth because the doctors weren't listening to their concerns. So that's definitely one of the systems that we definitely need to reform. Any other thoughts about that one?
One thing coming from, as you said, Dr. Kizzy, community mental health, I was a case manager for some time, and I believe it's really important for us to provide culturally competent, like mental health care that is tailored for the needs of Black women. I think that is really important, especially having more case managers that are of color that can provide services. So many times I would come behind, because it's a revolving door in community mental health. I would come into a new family's home and they're like, well, I had some woman that didn't understand me in my home for so many months and I couldn't connect. But I'm thankful to have some woman that looks like me, that she felt comfortable and to ask those questions and not feel as if she's going to be judged for not knowing certain things regarding the system and the care that was being provided for her.
Yeah, that's so important. Like seeing that representation matters, and we know, like from literature, when we are engaging with a mental health professional that shares our background or shares our culture, we have better outcomes. And a lot of it is being removed from places where we are susceptible to microaggressions or having to over explain or justify feelings and actions. And so that's a critical one for sure. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback off of that because really, when you said system, the thing that came to my head was just like white supremacy in general,
Mhm.
and how we all of us and all the Black women in the world have to fight this on a daily basis. And when I think of mental health care, there was that article that came out, was it last week or so, about how depression looks differently in Black women and how, we have been missing basically what it looks like. Black
Mhm.
women are high functioning, for whatever that means, but
Mhm.
basically we get shit done, right? Even though we may be depressed. And it's just like, how many times does it take Black women to have to constantly advocate for themselves within these spaces to get that quality care? And going back to your point, Maria, about, yeah, we need culturally competent providers. And also now I'm thinking, being a doctoral student, we need culturally competent teachers and professors who can even train us so that we are able to recognize that things may look differently from different populations, but also thinking of gendered populations as well. Because so we often like will segment things by race, but looking at things gendered racially as well. Things look different between Black men, Black women, Black non-binary people. And so I think it really comes back to that educational piece and building a pipeline of culturally competent providers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so with that, you guys are like mentioning, were mentioning some of the um, ways that we can better support. What are some of the other ways that we can better support as a whole within, like the mental health system? Like, how can we better support our Black women there? And obviously, how can we support each other and our Black men be, supportive of our Black women as well. Also, what are some of your thoughts about that? And I know you guys have mentioned a couple with the workforce and things like that. What are some of the other ways that we can help do that?
I think Bree brought up a good point about education. That's the start. I believe that's the start for any change, any reform that needs to be had is just educating men, educating the community, educating the layperson. And I also would say to the create spaces. I actually wrote an article recently for a magazine called Helpful Living Magazine. It's a magazine with mental health resources and articles written by people of color, just about different things. A lot of clinicians oftentimes will write for the magazine, and so the editor asked, did an interview with me, and it was actually on this particular topic. It was actually on the strong Black woman and what that means. And so I remember in the article, I did a little talk about, in the interview, a little piece about creating spaces. And I said, the spaces, I think when we think of spaces, people always think it has to be a therapeutic space, but creating spaces that normalize mental health. It doesn't always have to be a therapeutic space. Like these spaces, and actually it probably should be just a regular space because we want people to feel comfortable and share and talk and be able to let their hair down and breathe a little bit. So, and I gave the example, for example, Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk. Like that's a space, and I know it's not exclusive only for women, but it is a space. And she's not a clinician, but some of the things and the people that she's brought on and the topics that she's talked about. I mean, she's talked about trauma, she's talked about substance abuse, she's talked about sex. I mean, she's talked about a lot of things we talk in a clinical setting. And so I'm thinking like creating just a space for women to feel free, and it doesn't have to be a space that's a therapeutic space. So.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Now, I was piggyback off of Dr. Kizzy. I agree that we have to create spaces, and one I'm really encouraged and also passionate about is within the church, the Black church, where we come every Sunday, and there's large congregations and people that come seeking help, and I think that's the perfect place to educate and the perfect place to provide ongoing resources and information about how to access healthcare or mental health care. And so I think I'm hopeful that we're talking about it more and breaking down that stigma, but I believe we still have so much more work around that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a place that I think we've been seeing more of that for sure, as well, and trying to be um, a safe space and really getting engaged into the mental health work. So I definitely think the Black church can definitely be a place to do that. And also, one of the things that I hear a lot about this is also like being careful of the stigmatization of the experiences of Black women, right? Like there is so much. I don't know if you all like have tapped into like the podcast world, but the misogyny and other things that take place in the some of the podcast world is really wild. I've had maybe a couple, I would say maybe three clips that I've seen this week that have gone viral in, really, that were really just disrespecting, women's experiences about, um, like wanting the best for themselves, going to get their degrees, getting their high paying job. And, one of the clips was essentially saying that, you know, all of that means nothing because women are getting successful, just to be alone, because at that point no one wants to engage with them. Like there's so much like, of that stereotyping that's out there. And I think one of the things, like, especially as like I'm a dad of, I have my baby girl and I got my son, right? And so it's making sure that, my son, because people always think about like going directly to, focus on baby girl, make sure she has what she needs, but it's also making sure that my son understands completely, like, understanding and knowing completely, like, you know what to do, what not to do, what to say, how to, you know, protect his sister, how to, engage with his sister, how to, we've even had times where, we talk about, they go to the same school. My daughter would say something, somebody said a certain thing to her, and also going to my son and saying there is a level of respect with your peers that you should demand around your sister, right? Like, so thinking about those things as well, and in navigating some of those spaces. And so I do want to introduce, we have another panelist on, Dr. Camille Jones. I would love, we're just in the conversation, so we'll keep right flowing. But if you want to take a second, I would love for you to introduce yourself and just talk through one thing that you're working on that you're proud of.
So good day, good day, good day, good people. I want to thank you, Brandon, for being brave. These are not conversations that individuals host on a daily, and it's so important that particularly our community takes pause and moments to do so. So I thank you for that. Again, yes, I'm Dr. Camille Adams Jones, best known as Miss Doc Jones. And when you think about showing up for yourself, the one thing I had to do for myself was make sure I had a hanger. And I know people go, "A hanger, that sounds so crazy. That sounds so crazy." But there is this mantra that we must be strong, we must be Teflon, we must be this unpenetrable piece at all times, but not just for ourselves, but for that everyone around us that's watching, depending on us, and looking at us of this source of strength. And I had to buy myself hangers. And yes, of course, I got the cute ones, but I had to get hangers. So there were moments for me where I would hang up my cape. And I would not be a superhero. I would not be flying high. I would not be leaping from buildings. I wouldn't be walking through walls. I wouldn't be championing every cause that comes to my doorstep. I would be at rest, and I would be what I would consider off duty. So even if the sky lit up with that emblem that they usually do for Batman, and it says, "Doc Jones, we need you, Miss Doc Jones," like red alert, red alert. If I had hung up my cape for the day, I was not in a hurry to respond. And I think often, even when we dedicate time for ourselves to be at rest or to have a bit of respite, if something calls us, if something channels us, or a certain number comes up, or something hits the email box, we are immediately chiming to it, taking those capes off of hangers and putting them back on. And the greatest thing I've learned to do for myself is when I'm at rest, to be intentionally there. And it's been helping a great deal. So thank you, Brandon, for having us and allowing me to share that little tidbit there with everyone.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you shared that. Um, Also, because we talked about that a bit earlier about these buckets of expectation. What is, for everyone, like what is some other advice or other suggestions that you have for other Black women? That is definitely the majority of the audience that I have at the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. So what are some of any advice, anything, and again, it could be, personal, professional advice that you all have, really for other women to manage all the things that they're dealing with and to take care of their own and to prioritize their own mental health and wellness.
I think Dr. Jones summed it up. I, I mean, she said exactly what I said in an article. Like, take off that cape. It's killing us. It literally, like, is killing us. And I love that mantra, and I love that example and that analogy. But just take off that cape. Whatever you have to do by whatever means necessary. Say no, set boundaries, put your parameters up, put your phone on do not disturb. Whatever you have to do, take off that cape, because it's literally killing us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to recommend that we do like check-ins quarterly with our circle and the company that we're keeping. I don't think we realize how much residue enters our space and our world based on the circles and environments that we spend the most moments in. And I know, I come from that Lindsay, like, no new friends, or, those that, your day one homies and things like that. But you should always be in a place of looking to make new connections and diversify your circle. Like, if you are a clinician, get you a friend that's in an engineering space, somebody that's an accountant, an architect, a builder, somebody that's, paints for a living. Find new conversations to be in and about. Don't just stand and dwell in the same, because you stunt your growth, you stall yourself a bit, and you don't realize how much of your perspective starts to take on the environments that you stand in the most. And often, I hate to say it, but our mental health, we're not always standing in healthy environments. We're not always standing in places and spaces that serve us well. And even when we get amongst our friend circles, especially, we're in this business of like helping the therapeutic, which lending ear and things like that. And so a lot of people like dump at us, and we need to be around like individuals who have different conversations sometimes. For me, it's been amazing to just step out and make friends in the tech world. Listen to some different voices on perspectives from different fields. And I want to encourage everybody, like, quarterly, just check in. Who you hanging with? How's it serving you? And where else do you think you'd like to stand? And then go get there. Go be there and be a part of. Don't be afraid to engage. Don't be afraid to be solo, going to networking events. Don't be afraid to put that name tag on. Hello, my name is, and make some new connections and friends. And you'd be surprised how many doors and different opportunities of wellness appear when you start thinking of new perspectives and new experiences that you can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on that?
I just love that advice. I love it so much. Like, I did not know I was in a box until I stepped out of it. Recently, I've started acting. I've started exploring like other interest areas of mine that I think had become kind of, I guess, suppressed because I'm so in this space, because we're taught to give everything to our clients, to our careers. Again, tying it back to Black women specifically, giving everything to everyone but yourself. And so once I started to pour into myself, maybe it was 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, and eventually being able to sign up for a class that had nothing to do with my career, it worked wonders for me. So I just want to co-sign on that. Thank you for sharing. And I totally agree.
I love that.
Yeah, and I totally agree too with what everyone has said. I definitely continue to push that, develop and tap into that relationship with yourself. There is no important relationship on this earth but the one that's first with yourself. And I hear this term a lot with my clients, this term soft, where a lot of women are trying to tap into their softness, that gentle, that kind, that nurturing side of themselves, whether it's to obtain a relationship, but first turn that to yourself. Use that for yourself, knowing that those sides of you, we need all of you. You need all of you. And even the flaws, even the things that you feel like are not so pretty, we need all of that. And to tap into that and to love on yourself and appreciate yourself. I think Black women are resilient, and we are all survivors. And I believe that we've used that softness to develop relationships, and we'll continue to develop relationships, meaningful relationships. And we've also impacted and will continue to impact our communities. So I say celebrate yourself, celebrate the women that are in your life, and celebrate these little babies coming up as well too, including our men.
Absolutely. I love the celebrate yourself piece, right? And carving that time out. And it's important because I think, many of us, especially our Black women, are put in situations where they have to consistently and constantly prove themselves, right? Like over and over again. Like and somebody said it earlier, like their worth has to be connected to how many things they can balance, how successful they are, their career and how they manage that. And so just having, the time to get away from that, to learn yourself outside of that. I love that advice. I think that's awesome. I want to see if there are any, because we always like to put resources in places and tools around these conversations. Are there any resources and things geared towards Black women that are out there in any space? It doesn't just have to be in the mental health space. Or are there any resources that you all have that you all can think of that you want to share in the video? And we'll make sure to put links to those in the video also.
For me, again, I can't promote clinicians of color or therapy for Black girls enough. I think everybody needs that aspect of an outlet of talk, care, and support where you can go, be vulnerable, undress, and feel safe to disclose your journey moving forward. hmm And the other one, of course, not to self-promote, but Clinician Fest, which we Clinician Fest, in which I'm one of the co-founders of, is the mental health and wellness conference we do every May, first Thursday and Friday of May. And one of the most intentional things I have is making sure that Black women, Black clinicians are on those, are promoted in those spaces, and that those who may not get a traditional sense to be at some of our larger conferences have an opportunity to be there. And just being a Clinician Fest would just, one of our goals is that those women who are seeking therapy but can't afford copays, our foundation pays 100% of copays, so that women, underserved communities, can get the therapeutic care that they need, even if it's not quote unquote in the budget. So those are mine to share.
Thank you. I love that. And it's, definitely self promote for sure. For sure. Any other resources?
Yeah,
I
one or
would
two.
just I would just add that if anyone's looking to just kind of write an article or open to being interviewed, Helpful Living magazine, the editor, her name is Jamie Best. She's located in the Owens Mills area, Owens Mills, Maryland. And she's a Black woman herself. She's not a clinician, but she's phenomenal, and she's an advocate of mental health. And even if you want to advertise your business in her resource, like, she is, wonderful. So it's Helpful Living magazine. I think it's on Instagram too, at Helpful Living Mag Inc. or something. But I can give you the resource, Brandon. But she's phenomenal.
Awesome. We'll definitely make sure we have a link to it. Also.
I want to promote myself as well. Kindness Connects Us Therapy Services. We provide services in Tennessee, Missouri, Arizona, and Florida, teletherapy services. And so if any women or girl, we see 10-year-olds and on up who are dealing with various different issues, as well as Loveland Foundation. I have had a really great experience working with them. I've had quite a few clients that were supported and had their therapy sessions paid for 100% by this foundation. And they support particularly Black women and Black girls. And so I would reach out to them as well, including Dr. Jones mentioned paying for copays too. That's amazing. So thank you, Brandon.
Absolutely. Cool.
Maria, you took mine. I was going to say Loveland Foundation.
Yes.
Again, co-sign and retweet. I really like Loveland Foundation. When I didn't have health insurance this past year, they actually really helped by giving me, I think, 8 vouchers for therapy, which was essential. because, therapists can charge a lot. So that was $0 I had to pay out of pocket and was just phenomenal. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Awesome. Well, I definitely thank you all for jumping on with your perspectives, and really like having this conversation. This is not going to be the last conversation around this topic. There's going to be an episode that's going to be coming out March, specifically around supporting our Black girls. So we're going to have another panel to really talk about that, to digest that, because again, the things that are being put out and things directed towards our Black girls is definitely a lot of things that are going to challenge their mental health, their self-worth. And so we definitely want to have that conversation as well. So I thank each of you for jumping on. If there's, I would love if each of you could just share where people can get connected to you and your work as much as you're comfortable. And if there's any final thoughts that anybody wants to share. And so Maria, I'll start with you, and then we'll just go around.
Yeah, individuals can reach me at www.Kindness Connects Us Therapy Services, as well as Kindness Connects Us Therapy Services on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I have my own personal page, Self Kindness Connects Us, and I also share podcasts called Sweats, Heals, and Mental Health Podcast. And that is on all streams platforms for podcasts.
We'll definitely be making sure there's a link there as well. So Bree, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, sure. So I'm most active on Twitter, that we were just talking about this, not sure for how long, but you can find me on Twitter at Brianna A. Baker. Also at my organization that I help co-found called Black and Mental Health. That's Black NMH on Twitter. On Instagram, Becoming Dr. Baker. And I also have a YouTube channel called Becoming Dr. Baker as well.
And we're going to link to all those too. Dr. Jones.
All right. So I'm Mrs. Doc Jones. Most places that's MRS DOC JON. I'm sorry, JONES. I'm in that on Instagram as well as on Twitter. On LinkedIn, I'm Dr. Camille Adams A. Jones. So however you need to find me, go ahead. I'm trying to keep this hair from flying away. It's windy up here. And then, of course, I want you to link with Clinician Fest. At Clinician Fest on Twitter and Instagram. We have some amazing things coming up, some amazing guest speakers, and I'd love for you all to be a part of that journey with us as well. So I thank you for that, Brandon, who actually was a speaker at Clinician Fest last year, and Brianna was the speaker the year before. So small world. Mm-hmm.
Right, definitely keeping it within the family. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I definitely recommend people to check that out for sure. And last but not least, Dr. Kizzy.
Yes, you can find me on, my website is www.thedocscorner.com. And I'm on, I don't have Twitter. It's probably not a good idea to get it down anyway. But I do have a Facebook page, which is Ross Counseling, LLC. And I'll be following all of you as well. Thank you.
It's all about building community, right? For sure. So thank you all so much for your time. This is just part one. We're definitely going to do this again, and definitely appreciate each of you all checking into the Black Mental Wellness Lounge. And so look forward to seeing you back here again soon.
All right. Shout out to those Morgan Bears.
Of course. Always, right? Always.
Thank you.